felt a small surge of happiness as I caught sight of the yarn store I'd opened last year. Mad About You was my pride and joy. Of course, I was also proud of my 2 children, and of course they also gave me joy. But they were both grown, independent humans who made their own decisions these days. There was only so much credit I could take for them anymore. Mad About You, on the other hand, was all mine. The first thing I'd done entirely on my own in my whole adult life. I'd written up the business plan, picked out the property, furnished the interior, with some guidance from my artist best friend Angie, and selected the inventory with painstaking care. Although some of the startup capital had come from my divorce settlement, I considered it fairly earned compensation after 24 years of marriage to a world-renowned pulmonologist who'd spent more time at the hospital than at home helping me raise our children and keep our household running. To be honest, I felt more like a personal assistant than a wife for a lot of my marriage. 2 years after signing my divorce papers, I was still relishing my freedom. My younger son was off at college, and the older one, a recent graduate, was living on his own, which meant I had the house all to myself, and my time was my own to devote to my new career as an independent businesswoman. As I drew nearer the shop, I spied Linda, my most faithful customer, waiting on the sidewalk outside and looking rightfully impatient. Fudgesicles. "Good morning, Dawn," she said with a judgmental eyebrow arch. "You're 4 minutes late." "Yes, I know, Linda. I'm sorry. Chloe called in sick this morning." I unlocked the door and held it for her to follow me inside. As I moved around the store, turning on the lights and readying things for a new day's business, Linda made a beeline for her favorite chair. There was a grouping of cozy couches and chairs by the front window, where people were welcome to sit and knit for a spell when the space wasn't in use by one of the knitting or crochet groups that held their regular meetups at the store. Linda came in almost every morning to sit and visit for a few hours over her knitting. She was retired and lived alone, and I had the sense she didn't talk to many people outside the time she spent in the store. "What do you think? Creme brulee or southern pecan this morning?" I asked as I moved to the coffee maker. I always kept a carafe of coffee on hand, as well as a selection of teas and powdered hot chocolate, so customers can enjoy a warm beverage while they knit or shop for yarn. It encouraged them to stay longer, and the longer they stayed, the more likely they were to buy something. It also made the store feel more homey, which was part of my business mission statement. Create a comfortable home for fiber arts lovers to gather and shop. "Feels like a creme brulee day to me," Linda answered as she unfolded the Joji Locatelli Odyssey shawl she'd been working on for the last several weeks. It was knitting up so beautifully, I'd been considering starting one of my own with some of the new Malabrigo dos Tierras I'd gotten in last week. The bell on the shop door rang, and I glanced over my shoulder as I counted out scoops of flavored coffee grounds. It was a man who just entered, which was unusual but not unheard of. He stood with his back to me, gazing at the window display Angie had created for the store. It was an eye-catching installation, with sagging clotheslines full of colorful hand-knit hats, scarves, and socks suspended over a pair of giant knitting needles supporting a swatch of rainbow-striped garter stitch, and it had enticed quite a few curious onlookers into the store. "Let me know if you need any help," I called to the newcomer. He didn't respond, so I finished setting the coffee to brew before I went to properly greet my first customer of the day. He drifted over to the section of shelves stuffed with a spectrum of Cascade 220 colors. As I approached, I noted that he was roughly my age, or a bit younger perhaps, with an attractive salt and pepper beard and silver-threaded hair. "Is there anything in particular I can help you find?" I offered, affecting my cheerful customer service smile. He turned to look at me, our eyes met, and my stomach dropped onto the floor next to my sensible, dressy flats. It wasn't. It couldn't be. But it was. I'd know those piercing brown eyes anywhere, even 30 years later when they were surrounded by deep crinkles and a silvery beard. They belonged to Mike Pilota, my former high school crush. Varsity football player, student council president.